following podcast is recorded and produced by Emerge, a media creators co-op, in affiliation with the network at bicbb-radio.com.
Okay, hello, and welcome back to the Next of Kin podcast. I'm your host, Rich, joined by my son, Christian.
How's it going?
I'm doing good. Before we get into our topics today, I'm just going to announce something real quick. A little marketing. Up on the screen, you'll see our link to our Emerge merch shop. We've kind of got I'm wearing the shirt today. We've created a logo for our facility here over at Niagara Falls Emerge. So there's lots of cool products that we set up through a website called Spreadshirt. So we, like you to check it out. The website's up on the screen. Check it out.
Yeah. So if you want to support the podcast or support the business that runs the podcast, then yeah, buy a shirt or something.
I'm like Vanna White, so do you know who that is?
Dana White.
Do you know who that is?
Do you say who?
Vanna White.
Vanna White?
Yes.
You said Dana White.
No, Vanna White.
No, I don't know Vanna White.
See, that's the generational thing here. That's, the Wheel of Fortune? Wheel of Fortune. No one your age watches that show.
That's a video game.
It's been on the television for like 8,000 years. Vanna White was, I think, 11 when she started. I think she's 90 now. So
yeah.
So she turns letters on a game show. Okay, but
You
all the
must have
proceeds.
a lot of carpal tunnel by now.
Yes, she. Well, they got rid of the turning letters and they turned them into like touch screens.
Oh, so
which to me, I don't know why they still needed her.
That was because of her.
Yeah, she got carpal tunnel. So
yeah, that's because
there
of
you
her,
go.
Yeah.
Well, sorry to hear that. There is surgery for it, though. Maybe I'll get that someday.
Kind of need it.
I do kind of need it. I really kind of need it.
You got the eyes already. You
I
got to
got
wait a
the
year or
eyes
two.
fixed. I still have to wear readers, but I still like the fact that I don't have to wear glasses all the time. So, no, but seriously, any month. First of all, shout out to Christian for kind of designing the what we should sell on that website.
Not really, but.
And then all the proceeds from Emerge, from anything we make on that site, are going back into the building to support our mission over here to have a place for young creators. We've got a lot of folks coming up and looking at the place.
Yeah, more and more people every week.
Yeah, it's really going very well. I'm super supportive to anyone who's listening to the podcast, but anyone who's been supporting Emerge,
well, yeah.
And if you want to really support Emerge, buy a damn shirt. So,
we know where you live.
Yeah, well, not
like,
really, but,
the podcast, it tells you.
The podcast. So, yeah, seriously, though, if you're interested in podcasting, check us out. All right, let's get to the exciting things. We really were just going to focus on a couple things this week, and once again, we had to change it because things happened in real time in the internet, on the world of make-believe, so to speak. So, all right, so what do you want to start with? You have a couple news items, right?
Yeah. I think last week we said we were going to do some Marvel-ish stuff because there was a bit of Marvel news.
Right.
Mainly just a reshuffle. So there's some new release dates. I think next year, I believe, stayed the same beyond Blade getting pushed back. How much did we talk about Blade last week?
We only talked about the fact that they were going to have to do something and that they had lost the writer or the director. I don't remember.
The director, I believe.
So and that with you got an Academy Award-winning actor in there.
As far as I'm aware, he was like basically fired.
Right.
Bassam Tariq, and because apparently he came in. From what I had heard, there was very little script written, and considering that.
Well, you don't need a script.
Well, I think, what is it supposed to be? Like a minute is a page? Isn't that like the idea for script writing?
I think it's something
and
like
that. And
they
had like 90 pages or less than 90 pages or something,
and
again, they've been developing the damn thing for...
That's direct-to-video back in my day.
They've announced that it's like an animated film. Like, they announced Blade in 2019.
Oh, yeah, right.
So, like, it's not like they announced it last year and they only have 90 pages now. Like, the fact, like, this is a 2-time Oscar winner that you have, like, playing Blade.
Well, they don't
You've
get
kept
their
him on the back
actor.
burner.
They're going to lose the actor because
exactly.
the contract will be null and void, and he'll go do something else and end up in
Exactly,
DC universe.
So either way, that's getting reshuffled, and that seems to have been pushed back like almost a year, like 10 months. That took where Deadpool 3, which got announced like literally 2-3 weeks ago, they took that date and they pushed Deadpool 3 back to November. So, but to put it all in perspective, next year, this is just for movies, we're down to 3 films now. So back to like 2017, their MCU instead of 4 films a year. And that's Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which we got a trailer for, which we're going to talk about. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which there is footage floating around for, and the Marvels.
Right.
And those are in February, May, and July.
So really, it's just some moving of stuff. But I
Yeah.
like you said, it definitely has. Definitely have to.
But
do
then now this creates a really interesting, what I think is a really highlight year almost in 2024, where you have Captain America: New World Order in May,
Right.
about 10 months after the Marvel. So you'll have a bit of a gap when it comes to for movies in theaters during that time.
Yep.
You'll have
And it seems
Thunderbolts.
like there's not a
You'll
lot
have-
in the way of
yeah.
shows
You'll
either.
have
Like
Thunderbolts.
they're kind of like moving away from
Yeah.
the show concept.
You'll have
like you
Thunderbolts
talked
at the end
about
of
last time
July,
as well.
which that seems to be given
Right.
being headlined by Florence Pugh in a very similar way to like how DC did it with Suicide Squad, with like with Margot Robbie playing like Harley Quinn, and they have very kind of similar career trajectories, if we're being honest. So like that seems to be like what's going on with that. And that's obviously another big collective thing, and I imagine that Captain America: New World Order and Thunderbolts are gonna tie in as well. And I know that Harrison Ford has been casted as a
Yeah, he's took over for the General Ross
Yeah, for
character.
General-
For you know, old school guys like
Thunderbolt
me.
Ross. Yeah, that's really cool.
You know, yeah,
Good
I
casting.
mean, I'd love to. You know, he's getting older.
no
and,
indication if he's playing going to be like a Red Hulk or not. Like if that character.
Well, I mean,
or
if-
if he's just. But
if they do that, like I made the joke, I was, he's getting too old for this stuff. But obviously, he would just be.
But as of now, he's confirmed for
wouldn't he
Captain
actually
America: New
be
World
ready?
Order. I'm not sure if he's in Thunderbolts or not. I would imagine he might be.
Well, I mean, I think the one thing was they had to decide what they were doing with the character.
Yeah.
Obviously not to the scale of Black Panther, but they probably decided were they phasing out the character or were they going to like bring in a different actor? And then someone had the obviously idea of Harrison Ford, and you know now he's part of. You know,
But
he's
either
been
way,
in
like-
I mean, he's been in like a ton of universes.
But either way,
now.
I think this is like one of the strongest, like at least on paper, in terms of like the interest in like the characters that are present and the interest in like the concept. Like then you go to Blade in September, so now Blade's in September 2024, and then Deadpool 3 is in November 2024. So you have Captain America, Thunderbolts, Blade, and Deadpool, all like that's all in like from May to November. That's pretty like. That's pretty cool.
that's pretty
Like,
cool, and hopefully it's good.
I mean, yeah, they have to nail it first of all.
Yeah.
But those are like some really cool like characters, some really cool concepts that are at play, especially with like, and they're in a variety of things too. Like Captain America and Thunderbolts are very like similar, and so hopefully that would almost be there'll be a connection between those that'll kind of.
I think there will be. I think
Which will
that
be very
those two
interesting and very
films-
ambitious if you have like films that are coming out like 2 months apart that have stories that like really directly feed into each other.
Well, the one thing, let me say something. The one thing that you talked about, I think in the last episode that I thought about, and just some other concepts, they had the problem. We've talked about this many times about like trying to create these films in isolation,
Yeah.
and they kind of did a thing where everything was in reference to 5 years in the blip and blah blah blah, and then they did kind of like some stuff where it's like. They almost didn't acknowledge that superheroes exist in other places,
Yeah.
and that why didn't somebody show up? And now
I think the lack of connectivity has been the biggest issue with
so
Phase 4
now
for a lot
they're
of
kind of
people.
trying to
Yes.
find. I feel like there's an adjustment here, whether it was planned or not planned, to have things a little bit more connected. So I think the movies are still going to be pretty connected, unless it's something that's taking place on another planet or it's it's a different
Anyway,
time
it's looking
game
like
or
there's
something like
even
that.
looking at what we've just said with the 7 films that, for next year and 2024.
Like Blade won't be. Blade will be
like,
kind
think
of an
about it like this.
isolated movie.
Well, think about it like this. You have Guardians of the Galaxy, which Volume
Which
3,
is in outer
which
space.
serves, which is like so you have another venture into like kind of the celestial type world of Marvel, and also there will be lore for that just by the virtue of it being like the final Guardians film. So that stands on its own for that. Ant-Man
I'm
and
not
the-
crying. You're
yeah.
crying.
Ant-Man and the Wasp was probably the most important film in terms of like actually
And
putting
that
us on
takes
a
place
trajectory.
in the quantum realm for the most
and that
part.
puts us on a
so-
trajectory,
Yeah.
like towards whatever this phase is going to be. So that's going to be very important.
And that's an easy for the movie to be like not connected to a bunch of other things
Marvels
because
we don't
it's
know.
in the quantum realm. Probably
The
most
Marvels
of the
we
movie.
don't know. From what I've heard, seems pretty disconnected from the leaks and stuff that I've seen, but I'm not going to mention those. But then you have Captain America: New World Order and Thunderbolts, which are obviously going to be massive for the MCU in terms of like a lore perspective. Blade is the introduction of a legacy character. Deadpool 3 is obviously very intriguing.
Well, Deadpool's got still going to be kind of its own thing. Like Deadpool's going to be its own thing. It's not directly connected to the MCU in that respect.
Yeah.
It kind of exists outside of space. Like it's kind of a weird thing.
Yeah.
You know, you're breaking.
We'll see what
breaking a
obviously it's
fourth
intriguing
wall.
based on what they're going to do, how they're
Yeah.
going to move him into the MCU, what the plan is, and all that.
He's
sort of
back.
stuff. Not
That's
to
all
mention
that matters.
it's a rated R film. So.
No.
But look at like out of those 7 films, just the next
Remember
2 years,
we went
though,
to see Deadpool 2,
Yeah.
and you and I were sitting there
As a kid.
and these people were walking in with other little kids,
like a 2-year-old,
and I'm like,
like
what? And you were almost more horrified than I was.
was
You're
like,
like,
oh
what
my
are
God.
you doing? Like,
that was
what are you-
literally the
like-
joke in the last one. It was like, why are you bringing your kids
Like,
here?
get
Like, that
out
was
of
literally the
here with
beginning
that.
joke
It
of
was
the
like,
first film.
what? People don't, well, did they not? And then they're shocked.
Yeah,
Oh
they're
my
shocked.
God, why didn't someone have a rating system or some way
Why didn't someone
of me to
warn me?
know what this movie, who
Yeah.
the intended audience is, if they could only have a way of doing that?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
But either way, so like looking there, out of all those films there, the least interesting to probably people is the Marvels. And even then, the Marvel, like the original Captain Marvel, which people hate, it still made over $1 billion.
It did make over $1 billion.
So the least.
I'm more excited about the Marvels
But here, the least,
than I am.
I mean, the least
than
hyped
Miss
film
Marvel
here.
sequel. Let's put it
But
that
out of like
way.
the 7 films in the next 2 years, the least hyped film year, the least hyped. Yeah, I can't talk. The least hyped film here, it's the film it's a sequel to made $1 billion.
Right.
And so that's what we have in terms of like on a theatrical release. Going a little bit further to.
I don't want to say we're more sophisticated now, but like.
Well, they have to keep in mind that there is a generation
want
of
everything
kids
to be
that are now
Endgame
20 years
and-
old and
right.
want to continue with the MCU in some capacity, but they need a little bit more serious or a bit more lore to
I agree.
hang on to.
I agree. So
And then you get 2025, Fantastic Four got
I
pushed back
don't even
to
want to get that far
February.
into the future because that's going to get changed 3 more times.
Probably,
2025
but that's- we're
is
just want to give a
yeah.
good, and I'm going to
Yeah.
breeze through this part. Avengers Kang Dynasty is still in the exact same spot in May of 2025. There's 2 untitled movies that are set for July 25 and November 7th, which haven't been named yet, as well as another untitled movie on February 13th, before the new date for Secret Wars, which is in May 2026 instead of in like November of 2025.
Okay.
So but weirdly, there is 3 films, all unnamed, in between Kang
There are
Dynasty and
3
Secret
films,
Wars.
not is. Just sorry.
So, and the question is like, how connected will those films be to the actual like storyline of the Avengers films, or are we going to get like an Ant-Man scenario where there's just a bunch of films that just happen to be in the MCU
I think it's just too
and they
far.
happen to
I
be
think
in
that's too
between?
far apart to see it. They got to. I mean, I think those movies they don't even know what they're doing with those films
And
yet.
then on top of that, there's
Until-
2 untitled films after Secret
well, let's
Wars
not.
that same year.
I don't want
but
to get
again,
into like 40 years from
and the
now.
only films that we know of that are in development that don't have dates are Armor Wars, which they've said it has been changed from a series into a theatrical release show, which I think is a better choice, honestly.
Okay.
Shang-Chi 2 has been in development. Eternals 2 is kind of in development, I think. And Spider-Man 4 is going to but we just don't know when that's going to be.
But Spider-Man 4 is more of a Sony movie.
And
anyway,
Spider-Man 4,
right?
I don't
technically
think-
that's a
and
Sony
when
movie.
when they do these
no,
announcements-
answer my question.
Yeah.
Isn't
Yeah, Sony is kind of in more control of release dates for that.
so? Is that Spider-Man 4 going to be? Is that which Spider-Man is it?
I think it's going to be what's it called? It's going to be when I say Spider-Man 4, I'm saying Tom Holland.
Tom
Spider-Man.
Holland,
Tom
okay.
Holland's still in the MCU, and
Right.
like,
But did they ever?
There
like,
is a
'cause
whole
theoretically
there is
there
a
was
whole
a contract,
boiling universe,
but there
like, on the
wasn't
side.
there an issue like technically his contract was done. I thought his contract with
They signed a new one. He's good. I think,
okay
as far
because I
as I'm
never
aware.
saw the announcement that a
I'm
contract
pretty sure.
was signed.
I'm pretty sure that they've already said that they were going to develop another trilogy.
I'm not saying he wouldn't do
He
it.
has
I'm
another
just
trilogy
saying,
with Marvel,
But let's
if I'm
be honest.
sure.
Nobody does this. These guys don't do this for
Also,
free.
we do ignore
These
the
guys
Sony.
do these
we
movies-
ignore the Sony Spider-Verse a lot, but there
Right.
is a lot of films in development in the Sony Spider-Verse
I-
right now. So we'll see what happens in that.
I think we're
quarter of
getting the
things,
Amazing
but-
Spider-Man 3 or whatever we would be up to. So all right,
Then
all right, we'll move through. I don't want to spend
Yeah.
too much time on this, so we got a
and then
bunch
the only
of
other thing I
shit.
can say with Marvel is there wasn't really any shift with the TV shows. We still have like next year still Secret Invasion, Echo, and Loki and Ironheart.
Yep.
I think the 4 of those you're basically confirmed to be series.
Yeah, those
Those
gonna be
ones
series.
are Echo, Loki, and Secret Invasion are all filmed.
Well,
Those
they
those
started
are,
production work on. They're working on Loki
yeah.
too.
Ironheart's
season 2.
getting filmed right now, so I figure that's a series. So, like that's done. That's done and dusted. So we have to deal with probably like 4 more, like maybe 6 episode type things. Well, although hopefully 1 or 2 of these things doesn't take that format. But then you get to like Agatha, Coven of Chaos, which I would imagine is gonna get changed to a special. Given the success of like that stuff, and there's been talk that a lot of the stuff,
But
that
a
they're
lot of this
developing is
stuff,
gonna be
like,
specials
there's no
now.
updates on some of this stuff. So
Well,
I
to be
don't
fair,
think you
there's
can.
we
I
have
don't
a-
think you can assume that any of that's some of those things are going to happen
The
because
3 things I've heard in the
there's-
last 3.
But until you hear something from them,
No, this is like reporting from like not like it's not just like a dude on Twitter said like I heard this. It's like it is at least like a somewhat reputable source. I've said like Wonder Man, which was going to be a show, which I thought was dumb, is going to probably be a special presentation.
Wonder Man?
They're talking about Nova.
what is Wonder Man?
That's like I don't even know his power. I think he's just a small.
Is he from
strong
an
dude.
island of
I think he's like
Amazon men?
I think he's like an actor or something like at Anna Super.
Never mind. I withdraw the question.
Either way, I think the guy who did Shang-Chi is developing that.
Okay.
Which he is developing way too much stuff at the moment. Because apparently he's also directing a damn Avengers film. So I don't know how. And he's
gotta
doing
make the
Shang-Chi-
coin, man.
And he's doing Shang-Chi too.
He's
and,
multitasking.
And he's doing the 10 Rings series, which is also in development.
There's too many shows about rings.
Yeah,
I'm
like,
just going to tell you that.
Then there's Nova, which Nova is going to be a
How
special.
many ring shows
Yes,
do
the
we
Nova,
need?
which is like the Nova Corps, but eventually there becomes like one dude who's just Nova who actually has powers.
Is this? I don't. That is just not interesting to me.
I like Nova's a cool character. I don't mind Nova.
Okay.
Then they're doing. Then there's rumor about, and then there's the ones that are just rumored.
You know they need a show. They need a
There's also
show
the
about
Wakanda series
remember,
as well.
Remember in Guardians of the Galaxy 1, the guy who's like the cop, and he's got the wife and the little
They're
kid.
bringing him back.
That
The
guy.
talk is they're bringing him back.
Yeah,
yes.
that guy needs his own show. I need an
know
origin
if he's
show.
gonna
I
be his
need
own
like a
show,
6-episode arc about the cop
But
guy.
the talk is that they would bring
from that
him
planet.
back, and they would bring back the
little girl.
woman, the woman who's in charge of the Nova Corps
Yes.
in that movie in Guardians 1.
I
They would
forget
bring
who-
them
yeah,
back, and then that would be something to do with that. And other things that for some reason there's an Abomination thing rumored. There's a Moon Knight season 2 rumored. Miss Marvel season 2. Mephisto maybe. Ghost Rider.
Mephisto's never
And
happened.
Silver Surfer's the big one that's been rumored.
That
the
was
last
a
couple
rumor. That
days.
was a special
So,
rumor.
That was
Okay.
just yeah. So,
All
but
right,
otherwise, that's kind of
you're
it
just
for-
hitting too many like things
Yeah.
now that are
But
just
that's
too
it
many
for,
things out there.
That's really it for Marvel. Then we
Okay.
got
The biggest
other
things-
than like the only other casting news besides Harrison Ford is that Sacha Baron Cohen is being rumored to play Mephisto in Ironheart at the moment. But again, that's kind of based off of like a rumor on like a set. So
I think
although
there's just
Sacha
too
Baron
many
Cohen,
of that.
although
things.
Sacha Baron Cohen would be a I don't know, like a really solid. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's enough about Marvel.
Yeah.
Because, to be honest, they really the next year is key to them. They need to. I mean, obviously Black Panther. We have all high hopes for Black Panther.
Yeah.
But they need a really, and I think that I watched the special. Well, there's 2 things else that we saw trailers for.
Yeah.
We saw the trailer for the Christmas special for Guardians of the Galaxy, another special presentation. I think it's going to be. I think it's pretty cool. Spoilers. Go watch the trailer. I don't really. It's a spoiler for a trailer, but basically they're trying to. It's a typical
They're calling
Christmas
it the
story.
prologue to
It's a
to Phase
typical
4,
It's
so-
typical Christmas story where. One of the guys is sad about Christmas, so the rest of them who don't really know what Christmas is decide that they want to like cheer up Quill for Christmas. So they go to Earth. So it's kind of like Star Trek 4, where they're fish out of water, so to speak, and they're in like walking around L.A. And then I think they decide to go look for Kevin Bacon. And so Kevin Bacon will be playing Kevin. I love in the trailer it says introducing Kevin Bacon.
They got Cosmo
as
in
Kevin
here, too.
Bacon.
They got the dog.
The Cosmo the dog is going to be in it,
astronaut dog.
which I think is great. I
Yeah.
mean, we had a funny conversation about Cosmo the dog. And I didn't even, and I will have to say, I did not know this, and I'm embarrassed that I didn't know this, that Howard the Duck was there at the end of Endgame taking on.
He's very hidden, to be fair.
He's there, though.
They don't
I didn't believe you.
He's literally behind a guy.
He's behind a guy with a gun. And he looks all angry with a gun.
Yeah,
he's like,
he's in the background like
it's
hell,
great.
like-
No, I mean, it's funny. I'm sure that maybe the dog was running around too, but I like the Cosmo the dog's back, and so, but no, it looks fun. I mean, it's obviously not taking itself very seriously. I think, like you said, it seems like it's going to be a kind of a kickoff for not only the movie, but it'll also be kind of a kickoff to Phase 5.
Yeah.
Or what are we, Phase 6? I lost track of the phase.
Well, no, I think they're calling it the prologue.
For
Phase 4.
Phase
So it's more
4.
like it's like kind of like the book note at the end,
okay.
like
Epilogue.
The epilogue.
Prologue is the
yeah,
first
mixed
one.
up.
Oh, no, that's fine.
Yeah,
That's why
epilogue,
I was confused. So the epilogue.
Yeah, because Ant-Man is very much
So grown up.
Ant-Man is very much being fully pushed as like the start of Phase. What's it called?
Plus, we saw a newer trailer for Ant-Man Quantumanium.
I think that is the first trailer actually. Because we've seen footage that's been leaked, but
there's definitely a different version of the trailer that I saw.
Leaked footage from one of the big.
Yeah, because she's like,
whatever.
I built this thing. She's like, turn it off, and then all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose.
Yeah, they get sucked into the quantum realm.
Yeah. So I think a lot of that movie will be in the quantum realm.
The older actor for Cassie, who they recast it from Endgame. She looks actually a lot like the younger actress in. If she's able to catch the vibe of the younger girl, who I think is one of the better parts of the.
It wasn't like we saw that much of her.
I will say,
in the last movie.
Ant-Man up until this point in the MCU was very much treated as a kind of like a side thing.
He's comic relief.
He was comic relief. He was like a breath of fresh air. He was like even after the Infinity War, they used him as like, here's a fun adventure after like that really like kind of stressful high stakes one. This is them like flipping that on its head, and now Ant-Man gets to actually have like an essential like film that's not like kind of just
and we have to see how it goes in terms of him being a
Ant-Man
more serious
been, like,
performer.
essential viewing for
he
like
has
the
to be more
story of the
serious in
MCU.
this film because it's not. He can't be just like bouncing around with the funny guys in the van. Like it's definitely like he's Ant-Man.
Not to mention Michelle Pfeiffer probably gonna get a big role in this, given that she spent God knows how many years down there, and then she's getting put back in.
Yep.
So,
okay.
Which because she was basically a cameo in like Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah.
So I'm happy for her to be back. Obviously we're getting Kang, like a different, the newer version of him.
The Rip
and Jonathan
Kang.
Majors looks like he's just gonna body this role. Every version of the character he's gonna play.
Well, he's a heck of an actor, so.
And he's gonna play two of them this year because he's also gonna be in Loki season 2. Right. So like.
Yep.
So yeah,
we're gonna get a couple different versions.
Very confident in that.
So all right. What else did you have on that?
For Marvel?
Well, we got to get into the really big breaking news yesterday. We're sitting in the living room, and I'm just, on the cell phone there, and just sitting there, and then all of a sudden we were talking about something else, and something popped up on my phone, and it popped up on my phone is that DC has a new leadership team.
Yeah.
And it's Peter Safran and obviously and James Gunn. So they are the new Kevin Feige of the DC universe.
Of DC Studios.
DC
Studios. No longer DC Films. The DC Studios. DC is now given
the keys of the kingdom.
Instead of just having like a wing of like Warner Brothers like studios being like the DC section, now they have their own film studio like Marvel does.
Yes,
that is separate.
And it seems like not that he's got carte blanche, but he's definitely been given a lot of control.
I mean, he's
makes a lot of sense.
The Kevin Feige of
which
of
makes
DC
a lot
now,
of sense why
Safran.
A bunch of things that were over there that were talked about several months ago that got shut down. So they can put their eggs in this basket.
Yeah. I saw someone describe it as this. Kevin Feige is a very specific, very unique talent, where he's equal parts like showman.
Yep.
Because he obviously when he comes out to these like conventions, like he's very much like he's not just like a tech guy come out and like boringly announce like his product. Like no, he's like involved. He knows everything about it, and he's very very good at presenting it. Not to mention he also has like this deep like comic book knowledge and like just nerddom that typically that is often absent from like producer types, and then he also happens to be a very excellent producer.
Well, clearly we have people know James Gunn did Guardians of the Galaxy.
And James Gunn has a lot of those aspects.
And he did The Suicide Squad, and he did Peacemaker. So he's already, not to mention a bunch of other things that he's done. You know,
obviously a very talented filmmaker.
But it was interesting when I didn't know a lot about the producer guy that they brought in, and you know, you can laugh at the fact that that he's done like a lot of Conjuring movies and things like that. He's a lot of horror stuff, but he understands the concept of a franchise then because he's had a successful franchise. Annabelle or whatever it is. He's done those. The Conjuring.
He delivered a $1 billion film with Aquaman.
He also, he did Aquaman. He did Shazam.
Shazam, I will say, is interesting because Shazam, as much as like it didn't make a lot of like the most amount of money for like the average.
It's a quality superhero
but here's the thing
film
that I was looking about, and here's why I think this partnership makes sense. They're almost getting two people to do the role that like one Kevin Feige does at Marvel because like he's just a very unique. To have those three capacities, what James Gunn has is obviously like producer credibility. Right. Like he's like an excellent producer as well as like just a filmmaker in his own right. So he has a deep comic book knowledge as well. Right. Like James Gunn is not like some scrub like when it comes to.
Well, it's like having a Dave Filoni for your Star Wars stuff.
James Gunn's a Dave Filoni type. He's he is a I'm blanking on his name, but Kevin Feige type on his own. Then what's his name?
What I was thinking about.
What I've heard about Safran though is Safran's also a good producer. But also for a guy that I was watching a video talking about like interacting with Safran when he was on like the circuit for Shazam, like he seemingly knew like a lot more comic detail than like say the average producer was. Right. He's a pretty hands-on.
Well, what you have to
he liked that the actors
there's
were
two aspects
very
of this
invested.
stuff. There's two aspects of stuff that you have to think about, and Feige seems to be good at both. And you gotta have like the aspect of the producing. You got to know how to find the right actors. You know how I got to work the studio. You got to know what do we need in terms of production? What do we need? That's what a producer kind of has to do. The money, making sure you got a good distribution plan in place. James Gunn, let me finish. Yeah. James Gunn is more of the creative side of it, and he can focus on making sure that he's hiring the right directors and the right production designers. Yes, and that's why, and they already have a good working relationship. Yeah. These are two guys that have already been doing a bunch of stuff together. So it really is a very smart move by DC. And I think it's a game changer for this whole genre of superhero movies.
Not to mention, I don't think James Gunn's going to forego acting. Or not acting, directing. Like first off, I think he's gonna. Well, he's the president. Will also direct DC films.
Yeah, he can pick whatever movie he wants. He's the guy in charge.
Mm-hmm. Or so the other guy also, on top of being is also the on-set producer guy. Who's where James Gunn's not going to do that because James Gunn might be directing. Or he might be off doing something else, or be writing the creativity.
That's why they split up the job and not tried to give it to one dude.
That guy's the more corporate producer-y type guy who does his thing, but also seems to have a pretty decent hand in the comic book lore, but actually understanding what your producing side of things as well.
It's different than bringing in and again we've made fun of Kathleen Kennedy 18,000 times. Yeah. If I was going to produce if I was going to produce an Oscar movie. A movie that I wanted that was Oscar bait, I would go to Kathleen Kennedy if I had the access. But if I'm going to build a genre, to me, Star Wars, we've talked about this 10 times. I just don't want her. Where I think having a guy that kind of gets comic books, gets comic book culture, or a woman, because obviously you've got great females working on the Star Wars universe as well as the Marvel universe as well, that understand the genre, understand the fandom, and then also know how to tell a story. Yeah. And that's the thing about having a producer. But also, again, the main thing about a producer is, and I've done production on that side, is kind of just, I think this guy would be good for us. How do we get him? And knowing how to get that guy. And then they'll get to pick the projects they want to do. But those guys have all kinds of staff. If you look at all the guys that were working with Spielberg that were in their 20s and stuff back in the 70s and 80s, those guys are all producers of their own right now because he brought them along. And then when movies like Poltergeist and other things came along, he kind of started to hand off some of those things, including, unfortunately, Kathleen Kennedy. So,
which I would say that's just a good point to I think we kind of covered everything with James.
Yeah.
Gunn. Again, we don't know too much like specifics
We
yet.
don't got any specifics. There's nothing announced yet.
We'll go quickly.
They've been on the job for a day. They may have a plan, but they're not going to announce it until they've got concrete details.
Actually, I have one more DC thing, so we'll do that, and then we'll switch over to a few Star Wars things that I have.
Right.
So Henry Cavill, we haven't seen Black Adam yet.
We're going tomorrow. No, Friday.
But it's been pretty much an open secret for like a week or two, even before the film came out, that Henry Cavill was making basically a cameo role in there.
Well, they announced last week that they're working on Man of Steel too.
Well, but either way, it was leaked first. But either way,
but
he's
once
back.
he's
back as Superman. The new Warner Brothers leadership wanted him back as Superman, which was obviously something that one of the last leadership before the merger or whatever were obviously very weird about. And he's been in films obviously in that time, but he had been sidelined basically in terms of solo films since Man of Steel, which is literally a decade ago now. So either way, Henry Cavill himself came out and said it. He made his own statement, that's what I always wait for with these things, like when the actual actor themselves.
When they walk out on stage,
and he says it's not just a cameo;
or
it's more. He's like, nope, this is just the beginning. I'm coming back. There's more in development. Like I imagine that there's already a film and there's discussions involved. There's a director probably. I think there's a announcement probably coming.
I think they're going to roll these things out in a timely fashion. I agree.
Yeah.
So.
But that probably takes us off of DC for now.
Yep. Brings got a couple Star Wars things you said. I know Andor comes out today, but we didn't watch it yet because we're podcasting pretty early. But we're going to do another mini episode. We're going to do another episode in 3-4 days after we do Black Adam.
And Star Wars,
and then
Andor,
Star Wars and stuff. But
Tales of the Jedi is the main one.
Tales of the Jedi is coming out too.
That all dropped at once too. We don't have to wait week on week for that. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I can't.
So that's just an hour of new Star Wars content in the animated style, essentially.
When does Tales of the Jedi come out?
That's today. They came out today as well.
But they're killing me, man. I got stuff to do.
I'm
going to have to call in sick. If I still had a job, I'd be calling in sick.
Yeah. So those range anywhere from like 10 to 15 minutes.
All right. What's your Star Wars? That's all you had to start with. What's your Star Wars?
Last thing. Oh, there's two things for Star Wars. One, I think I missed this, but like you know Damien Lindelof, right?
Yep. Not personally.
No, but obviously. No. But like Watchmen and Lost are probably his two most like known things. He's done some films as well, but he's not the best at films in my opinion.
Right.
But he's been apparently, they announced in March that he was working on something Star Wars related.
Okay.
And I just missed this. I don't mind that idea, but there's been rumor in the last couple of days or talk that like it's a standalone project that like has the potential to break off into other things, but it's like post sequels. So I'm like, okay, well, that's the rumor.
No,
so.
The way I read that thing, because I saw that too, I only read that as from a time frame standpoint, it's going to take place after the Skywalker 9 films. I didn't look at it as this is a sequel to Rise of Skywalker.
No, I'm not complaining about that. But either way,
they just want to. I think this is a kind of a smart thing. I'm gonna say we need to be done with. We've got things going on within the Skywalker era, the 9-movie era of Skywalker.
See,
we've got Mandalorian.
I know what you're trying to say, but it has the opposite impact because here's what the truth.
They already have something also taking place before.
But if you place something afterwards, that inevitably you're going. What you're going
talking to Mike.
People don't. I am, but okay. Yeah, here we go. You're better now.
Yes.
Okay. I see what you're trying to say, that like they're just trying to move on and do something else. But here's the thing. Disney has not proven that they've been able to like handle making anything original for Star Wars anyway. And putting it behind all that after sequel means that you eventually are going to have to like at least try to because again,
there's three choices.
I don't want them to play in the ruins of the horrible world building that they built for 40 years of like history in the universe.
You don't know enough about it. They're just setting a time period.
Yeah, no, it doesn't matter though because it's
wait, stop. This is why I don't get
There's
this.
No build.
Hold on, let me talk. So what I don't understand is you already have a movie coming out that's like
that Tiger movie is never coming out.
I thought that movie was coming out in like 1,000 years or whatever it is before.
But that's just
is that movie dead?
That brings me to the
stop. Let me answer that question. Let me do my point.
We have no idea because again,
okay,
this
so
is a
fine.
Clown show.
They already have things going on in that time frame. Okay. They already have a bunch of things going on within the time frame of Star Wars. You got Bad Batch. You've got a bunch of other things going on. We don't need another show that's about the Emperor Palpatine. I don't want to hear
that's
about
fine,
that.
but there's
so
1,000
they're
years.
just saying we're going to get out of this era and we're going to totally like just start something else.
Okay, but what you're going into here, think about it like this: the problems with the sequel trilogy expand beyond just the actual films themselves. You have to look beyond into the actual like established lore and world building that as the bedrock of that. The reason those movies failed is because the bedrock is absolutely atrociously horrible.
According to you, then, according to
Also,
you,
there-
if you're in charge of Star Wars films and no one can tell you what to do, you get to pick it. You're making a movie. When do you put it?
There's like first off, you
Just answer my question. When do you put it?
not after the sequel.
Where do you put it then?
In any of the 5,000 year history before. Like
Fine.
the
So that's your point.
relevant, detailed
But
histories.
your concern
of
is-
old there's that you can that you don't
I
have to,
hate-
you don't
I-
have to adapt a novel from 1980 from the extended universe, but you can look into a novel from 1985 or 1990 that has actual like established like kind of Lucas adjacent concepts that are like much more accurate to the Star Wars
that's a
ethos
fine
than anything
point.
Disney has ever put in.
But I
Like,
think they're trying to get away
Disney
from
has proven they cannot world build within the Star Wars galaxy.
That
like,
is it. But
outside
they
of
can't
the-
world build.
the stuff that already
they can't
exists.
world build before the Empire or after the
Well,
Empire
they're not doing
or
bad
during
job
the
with Andor
Empire.
at the
Then,
moment.
according to you,
They're not
so
doing- no, actually, Andor and Rogue One, when they played with that thing, it did well. Obi-Wan not as much, but like I think they actually have done a better job in the middle period.
So I have
There's
no problems with Obi-Wan,
There's
and I'm
plenty
gonna
of
stand
stories
by
in the
that.
middle period. They haven't done a prequel story. You could do a live action prequel story.
Well, I thought they were
You're gonna
doing a
tell me
prequel
they're going to do
story.
a sequel-ish era before they do a live action prequel story?
I thought they were doing a prequel story. You're saying that movie's dead.
No, the Taika thing that's 30,000 years that doesn't even resemble like anything Star Wars. Because basically like the thing Taika's making, if that's even getting made.
Okay,
because
so
again, that movie's not. Kathleen Kennedy said that movie was coming out next year.
Well,
that
they
movie
need to
has
say-
not even
well,
been.
I
There's
don't
not
listen
even
to
a
anything.
script for
Kathleen
that movie
Kennedy
yet.
can't find her desk.
There's
as
not
far
even a
as I'm concerned.
script.
All right.
Like.
Well,
Not to mention, literally Lucasfilm. This is the other.
here's
piece of
the
news.
other
No,
thing.
real quick.
How
This
many-
is the other piece of news. Disney, Bob Iger, the new guy, not Bob Iger.
Well, he
Bob
needs to get
Chapek.
fired anyway.
Bob Chapek, who's horrible.
Yeah, he needs to get
who's done a
fired.
very, very bad job as Disney president.
Everybody
up until
hates
now.
him.
Beyond financially, but in terms of like the
no,
creative
everybody
side
within
of
the
things-
organization hates him.
Yes, exactly.
He's like
And he was
bad
a
for
pretty
Disney.
bad appointment. Even Bob Iger, the guy who appointed him, was the last guy. Deeply regrets it from the talk of things. He told Kathleen Kennedy to literally stop announcing films because it was damaging the brand because none of them come to fruition.
Well, that's why I don't believe this one.
Well, exactly. But
I don't believe anything that Star Wars says anymore,
What we're
like
dealing
from
with
a
now-
movie standpoint, because they don't know what the hell they're doing.
Which let me say, Kathleen Kennedy is like, and I've heard, and I saw someone describe her as this, is like a Hall of Fame producer in Hollywood. Like that is true. Like she's
yeah.
like she's A-list, like S-tier, or whatever
if
you want to
you're
call it.
making an Oscar
But she
bait
can't,
movie,
but that doesn't mean she shouldn't run a company.
she could run a company. She could be running like a company that goes to makes Oscar bait films.
And
not
she has
Star
She
Wars.
has some wins. Like she has Mandalorian, kind of. Like
She
you know, that's
doesn't-
not really.
I don't
her.
believe she had
Like,
anything to do with those things
But
except
she like
figurehead.
she's the overrun. So like just for the nature of the industry, you get like a win.
I don't-
for
I don't
that.
believe
And
for-
I
I
think
mean-
she's going to at least oversee a win with Indiana Jones. And given how given
The
that
only-
her,
well,
her
let me talk
career
a little
is
about
so,
it. Let me
her
talk
career
about-
is very tied to Indiana Jones.
She is, yes. I was just going to say
So I
that.
think
She
after
actually
this
was
next
very
one-
much involved in Indiana Jones, so I get why.
And I think she's going to shepherd a win with the Indiana Jones next year. I think that's going to be a James Mangold.
Then she should use
so
it
I
as
think
her-
and I think she should
then
bow
retire.
out with
Yes.
that.
Okay.
Like, and I think that would make sense. It would be the
she's
easiest
gonna be
way
out
to go
soon
out.
anyway.
So-
Like, I mean, all right.
but either way, this is a shambles.
Yes.
Like I have no idea. Like
Well,
they can't even imagine that they would
They keep
consider
here's
like
what I
that
think
being
they
the
do.
first thing they do.
I swear to God,
Like,
I think they take things like Star Wars movies then, because we keep hearing about Star Wars movies, and they throw it out and they see if anybody catches it, and then well, that one's not getting made. So I don't think this movie's ever going to get made.
well, none of this movie. Like Taika's not making a Star Wars. Taika doesn't need to make. Taika's an Oscar winner. Star Wars is not like what it once was. Like nobody needs to make a Star Wars movie.
Well, he
like,
might want to make a
He
Star
might
Wars
want
movie.
to, but like nobody's career is like hinged or like gonna grow or like Taika's career doesn't grow or expand on him making a Star Wars movie
right.
at this point.
All right,
like
my heart rate's up. I need to check my pulse
Sorry.
here. No.
All right. Well, otherwise, is there anything else? News?
I don't know.
They released a image for the new Fallout series on Amazon.
let's
It looks
not get
good.
into the-
I
yeah,
have
let's
nothing to
get
talk
into that
about
too
besides
much.
there was literally a
Yeah.
still frame.
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh, it looked good. It had the right aesthetic. Cool.
Yeah.
Moving on.
When more comes out about that and Last
Well,
of
definitely
Us,
we'll talk about that when
and
the closer
those
we
things,
get.
we'll get to that. But we don't have any information on that. I don't want to just.
Yeah,
I don't want to. I hate speculating when we make stuff up. We
Okay.
don't know what
You have
we're
Doctor
talking
Who stuff.
about. I got to talk about Doctor Who.
Okay.
So.
You can explain explain the situation.
So first of all, F you, BBC America, because trying to watch it, if you weren't watching it on cable, in real time, you might as well. I would have had a new baby and sell it online or something because it was impossible. Everything I did on my phone, I tried to Chromecast it. It just to the point where I ended up just only I had to download an app, a different
rewatched
app.
it later.
You know, so screw you because you made it difficult to watch.
Well, they fixed it now.
Yeah, well, the next day it was fine, but it's just stupid.
Because
So
they
it
put
kind of
Disney
set me
Plus.
off
I mean,
already.
They
like
literally fixed the issue.
it was
they
like par
announced
for
it,
the
like,
course
next
with the
day.
Chimble era. You know that I can't even watch the damn show.
Yeah, you're having so many.
I mean,
issues
like
trying to
just
get the thing
gonna
to work,
punch
so.
somebody in the face. So anyway, it's.
It was the
This
final
is,
episode of the
yes.
Chimble era.
So
is
here's
what came out
the thing.
on
I took
Sunday
a lot
night.
of notes. I got to put my glasses on so I can read my phone. All right. So it came out on Sunday night. This is the last Jodie Whittaker appearance as Doctor Who, as the Dr. Prime, so to speak. And this was, I don't want to get into the disappointment of the era, except to say, and we've talked about this many times, in the new Who era, she was listed as being the Doctor for the longest time and has the least amount of productions completed. So the exchange for time
Shortest seasons.
is shortest
least amount of
seasons,
episodes.
ridiculous seasons that were like mini seasons, and they're like, oh, look at this, the Flux.
Yeah, the Flux is a 6-episode season that they passed off as a full
and
season
the Flux
for-
could have easily been a 2-hour film, like we've complained about other things. It was drawn out. So
And I've
then they
I've
did
seen a lot of
Legend.
opinions about the Flux
Yeah.
recently of people because I watched some people react to this new episode and that they would talk about the Flux and they would just talk about how overly complex it was and like overly like hard to follow.
So here's
I never
the
watched
thing.
the Flux.
So
I never
the
watched-
first thing that Schimble said when he came out is he said, I feel that Doctor Who the character of the Doctor has become too big and too epic. So we're going to ground the show back into the Doctor being basically irrelevant. So
there
the
was no
episodes,
overarching
let
plot.
me go through this.
Yeah.
So then he goes through, and that first season, it's like, here's the Doctor picking up litter. That's basically what the Doctor did. Like, he was like environmental, she was like the environmental warrior and all that crap.
And no overarching plot.
And
For
no
the first time in
overarching
about
plot.
like 7-8
Ever,
years, I think.
ever,
I think in the new era, yeah.
and all
actually,
new
yeah.
bad guys, and that was fine.
Like the
But
finale
there was no
was just
balance.
standalone.
There was no
So-
balance, and so then they got a lot of criticism for that. So then the next season, they went to this crazy thing with the spy. It was supposed to be like a James Bond ripoff, and it was terrible because then all of a sudden it was
horrible.
Epper. And then the second season, they brought back every bad guy you'd ever heard of. And then they brought in that stupid Impossible Child and all this other crap.
Yeah.
And so then they just lost fans. So then the third season, The Flux, was supposed to fix this, and they did a bunch of things that got people mad. They bring in Dan, who probably was the newest good character they got. So now we get to the Sea Devils, which was terrible.
Yeah.
Which was just, I mean, even the costumes were bad. Like the Sea Devils, like they literally dug the Sea Devil costumes out of 1965. They didn't update it at all. So now we get to this last episode, and this is obviously a send off, and that's fine.
I will say when I watched it the second time, I will praise this episode for one thing. But
Yeah,
I
go
think this
ahead.
episode is shot well. I think this episode looks
I
good
have
visually.
no complaints.
Like, actually really good visually.
The one
Like,
thing about this era is they stepped up the visuals.
Yeah.
And no
and the music isn't
criticisms
bad
of the
this
visuals.
episode, actually.
What?
The music isn't bad this episode.
The music was much better in this episode. I think it
which
actually
has been a
works
problem
better.
for a lot of this era.
So, long story short, her send off isn't the worst thing. It is one
This
of
is better than a lot of
it
stuff,
is
I will say.
one of the best things that they've
After
done.
I watched it a second time, I was like, okay, this is actually better than a lot of the other stuff. It's not hard to do that.
It's significantly better than most of the stuff that we did. It's a good send off, but at the same
but for
time,
really weird reasons.
it's when it comes right down to it. My main point is she's almost not a major character in her own episode.
Kinda, yeah.
I feel like if you went through and I got a stopwatch and timed it, I feel at times there's significant parts of this show where the Master has all the screen time and she's just standing there looking at him. And with no reactions, and then it's so much about a bunch of other characters. It was, and again, I understand what they wanted to do, and I respect what they wanted to do because they wanted to do this like homage or whatever you want to call it to all the other companions that have come and gone. And they brought in a bunch of great old companions. They brought in Ace, and that was cool. And I thought that
and it was wild for a guy that avoided like a lot of old. Or basic, familiar Doctor Who, like the Plague for a lot of his time.
Right.
That he actually, and to be fair, he didn't do this well with, for Harkness, for instance. He
Right.
didn't do Harkness justice at all.
No,
but
he
he's
barely
seemingly,
wrote the
but for,
character,
for obviously we get some older Doctors in this episode at certain points,
Yeah.
and we get their, interactions between them and some of their former companions, and then obviously those former companions as well. And those scenes are better than the scenes with, the writer's original characters.
So right. So here's the thing.
Why is this guy who has spent 3 years with some of these characters, or 2 years, or a season, why is he better with a character that he's playing with once from 50 years ago than he is with his own character?
When it comes right down to it, again, they just never. She never seems to be, and we've done this a bunch of times, and I hate to be repetitive.
Yeah.
They never seem to get to the point with Jodie, where she seems like she's
In control.
she's the Doc, and there was always those moments with every
speech.
Doctor where she did have a couple speeches in this which
At
were
the
pretty
end.
good.
Yeah.
But
most of her time as the
her
Doctor, she
whole
didn't
tenure,
get Tennant speeches, she didn't get
it
Capaldi
was always
speeches.
and then it was always comedic, and it never left. This and that and it was just always that where even Capaldi, who was criticized for being too comedic at times, when he got serious, man, he was serious.
Yeah, he was scary.
He was because again, his inner core, and a lot of people don't like Capaldi, but I still think Capaldi is, he's not the best, but he's definitely.
A lot of people love, but people who do love Capaldi, they'll love Capaldi.
If you understand the original Doctor lore, then you got to like Capaldi.
100%.
If you only care about
you have
New
to
Who,
understand the ethos of the show.
if you only like New Who, then I understand why you're only a Tennant guy or a Smith guy, or even a Jodie person. But to not respect Capaldi is to not respect the brand of where Doctor Who came from.
And he's a more modernized version of it.
He's
he's
a tremendous modernized version
of the old man,
3 and
of the
4,
cranky old man,
of 3 and 4 more
And
than
1.
and even a little bit of Sylvester
Little bit of
McCoy in
1.
there too.
One's a
little
lot
bit
older,
of 1, but because obviously he was again, as everybody you don't know,
There's a reason they
Capaldi.
have him
Capaldi
go-
literally
there's
was
a
the
reason they have him
president
go
of the
opposite one in
he was
the final
literally the
episode,
president of the Doctor Who fan club when he was in high school.
himself.
He literally went out of his way to meet Pertwee. That's why his jacket's very inspired by the third Doctor. But anyway, let's get into this episode. So, spoilers, go watch it because it's very cool. They do a thing where basically the Master is back again, which is fine because the
His
Master
Master's good, actually. He's not bad.
He's a great Master.
Yeah.
I will say he's a very good Master, but it's almost shtick at this point.
Yeah.
He does a bit. He's singing a song.
And he doesn't have consistency with his most of the other Masters aren't nearly this chaotic. They have a bit at least they're like the Doctor, where they have a new-ish personality that they kind of fall into.
This Doctor is supposed to be
the spectrum.
This Doctor is supposed to be so psychotic.
Yeah, this Master.
The Master is supposed to be so psychotic, and that's fine. And he's got the comedic stuff, and he makes his weird obsession.
Bad,
he has a weird obsession with Yaz for this one, which is kind of a cool thing. I like what they did with that. Again, they write the Master better than they wrote the Doctor. Yeah. So it's not even that all the writing was bad. They just wrote the Doctor poorly. They wrote the Master quite well. I like this kind of psychotic Doctor. Mm-hmm. And he's Rasputin, and he has this plan to basically...
I like when they input stuff into history with Doctor Who.
Right.
That's when it works. And they've avoided
Jimbo
that.
Jimbo deserves some credit for doing a lot of... Yes. Right, I would agree with that. He did a lot of good historic stuff. So I don't want to throw everything he did under the bus.
Especially that first season. There's a couple good episodes. Even the India episode is pretty good, despite the fact that Yaz is the least involved character.
The one when they're working with Tesla is a good episode. I like the Tesla episode.
Mm-hmm.
I like that episode a lot.
Yeah, there's some he deserves credit for some of the historic stuff.
And,
He gives, yes, 100%.
and that's where he understands the old Doctor Who, because he's kind of an old Doctor Who guy. So he tried to bring up some stuff like his whole thing about the Impossible Doctor and all that crap, whatever it is. That comes from a lot of questions and theories going back to what happened to the third Doctor when he's kind of like put on extended detail by the Time Lords, and it was never visualized. So in his mind, he created this whole thing. And I don't, and there's some people online that have read a lot of the old stuff and watched a lot of the old stuff that say that he's not completely wrong, that there's a lot of old consistencies with continuity that goes back.
It's too obscure.
It is too obscure, and he should have found a way to explain it.
And he didn't ever fully, because again, there's also like a shocking, because again, the biggest, my thing is the biggest problem with this show is there is, like, the companion relations are never, like, strong with the Doctor. There's now, like, they're
What do you mean?
Like, are there any, like, great, like, does she have a great relationship with any of her companions? Like, we like Graham, but does she have a great, like, relationship that we love to see with Graham? No, because her companions are just being dragged along. They're not actually involved in the story at all.
Here's the
They're
interesting
just there,
thing,
and she doesn't communicate with them either.
Here's the interesting thing with those.
Have no exposition.
I know
what's
what you're
going
saying.
on.
I understand with that. And let's talk about. Let me talk about the things. The first thing is the episode starts. They go on this little side mission, and then Dan just leaves, which was kind of bizarre. And it was almost like
they just need to get rid of him.
They decided they didn't know what to do with
last
Dan.
episode,
So he's like, and it was a cool. His exit was very cool. Like, I'm going to go get my life going again, and I can do that because of you.
He almost died in the opening.
He almost died in the opening, which is fine, but it was a plot device. It was a plot device to get rid of him.
Yeah. But to be
let
fair,
me go through this.
Sorry, yeah, you're good. Yeah, sorry.
So the main thing that comes up in this episode is the concept of a forced regeneration. And I will say, I tried to find if this is something from Doctor Who lore, because I didn't want to talk out of my ass on it and then be wrong and say, no, this is from 1983 or something. They did this. I couldn't find it. Yeah. So maybe it's there and I don't remember. So maybe it is in the Doctor Who lore somewhere, the fandom, that I don't remember. And I don't remember everything I watched.
They said that was like the Gallifreys would do it as like punishment, right?
Yes,
which again,
I do think
old Who exists as Gallifrey exists. It's not gone.
It could have something to do again with the concept of the Dr. Ruth character and supposedly these other Doctor things that happened to him when he was pulled out after a trial by the Time Lords, because he went on trial a couple different times by the Time Lords. Time Lords existed in the original show.
I just think that the lore is so
they get into
messy.
this thing. They get into this thing where the Master wants to force regenerate into himself, into Jodie. And then it's him. So he's the Master, but he's the Doctor. And it's a stupid plot device because he's still the Master. Yeah. He's not really affected by...
the next regen was just the Master.
She regenerated into the Master, his personality, which is not how regeneration basically...
hijacking.
Yeah, it's a hijacking, but it was really...
It was confusing.
It was confusing, and they didn't really even have like a yada yada, timey-wimey science explanation for it. And more importantly... I don't understand. And it was a plot device without a doubt in my mind, so they could do the other thing. So they create the Hollow Doctor, which is way too much. It's like they
use a lot.
It was too much.
They use it a lot.
and it's funny.
They use it to like cameo like 4 Doctors.
So here's the funny thing about that: the Hollow Doctor. Is actually better in this episode than the actual Doctor.
Yes.
The Hollow Doctor actually is more helpful than the actual Doctor.
That is true.
Is more and has better moments. The Hollow Doctor has better moments than the actual.
Only moment they tried.
I know it's the same actress.
There's literally
but
two moments that are supposedly supposed to save like the Doctor in this episode for her to save the day. One, that she makes a lot of friends. It's not the journey. It's the friends you make along the way.
Can we get to that?
Here's the thing.
Let me get to that.
Okay, all right, sure. And then the other one.
Interrupting me.
What?
I don't want to. I'm trying to get to the Doctor's part
fine,
first.
go.
We'll get to the friendship. It's on my list.
All
You got to
right.
let me go through my list now. So, yes, they do a thing where they bring back some crazy, amazing cameos. They have. I almost thought it was going to suck, but they did it quite well. And again, you already said that, and I give you credit. Like, wow, they did a better job writing for the old doctors that had 12 seconds of screen time over the main doctor. But anyway, so we see number 1 again. We see 5, 6, 7,
in the movie.
8, 9.
Yeah.
So we see. I might have miscounted my numbers there. Yeah,
And I think we've seen every doctor now in the modern era.
Except 2.
Really?
Not seen 2 or 3.
Beyond just like
2
the
or
weird,
3, we have
just
not
beyond
seen
the weird still shot at the end. Of
We've
like
not
the,
seen
the
2 or
50th,
3
right?
yet. Yeah, and I still think they should get Pertwee's kid to play him. I don't think that's ever going to happen, but I think Pertwee's son, who played Alfred on the TV series, would have been. I mean, he looks like him. That's the easiest casting of all. But anyway, forget that.
Yeah,
we bring William Bradley back to recreate his character as the first, and they're in this kind of like transitional place where you go as your regeneration, and if you go down the path too far or off the prefaces, and I like that whole psychological, I was cool, and it was a great plot device to bring back Sylvester McCoy, Colin Baker, McGowan, and Peter Davidson. Yeah. So there was 5. So it's really cool the way they edited it, the morphing between the different characters.
That was really good. I liked that.
Really good.
And they did the morphing was good, and
and shout out to McGowan, man. McGowan could put on the frickin' suit right now. If they did another frickin' movie with McGowan, I go watch that fucking thing right now.
Good, yeah.
He's so good. He's just sitting there, and they're
be
like,
fair,
"How come you're not wearing robes?" Because I don't do
the
robes.
New era is about to be a lot more ambitious.
Oh, for
and
sure.
I think they're gonna start exploring stuff like that.
Yeah,
I think
if they're smart.
Into side shows and having maybe multiple doctor stories, or like bringing back doctors for standalone stories.
Why do we like
stuff.
parts of? Why do we like what they do on Mandalorian?
They're gonna do a bit of a Star. They're gonna try to Star Wars it or something. Or Marvel
we like Mandalorian. We like Andor. Why? Because they find ways of bringing in things from Star Wars that we really like, like a ship, a thing, or whatever.
And I've been like really,
robot,
really impressed for a guy that's not like fully into Star Wars as a guy who's is pretty like knowledgeable for. I'm kind of off topic for Andor right now,
right?
But for Andor, it feels a lot like if you've ever read like a novel about Star Wars, or like even some of the extended universe stuff, like in terms of like the bureaucratic level of it in the politics. That album of Andor is really good,
right?
So moving on, because we're not talking about that today.
Let me just go through my list of things that pissed me off.
Yeah.
Because there were some good things, and I think I've been fair, but now I got to say some things that pissed me off. Okay. So, first of all, Graham randomly ends up in a volcano, and they never explain how he got there.
Cameos.
He's a volcano expector. And they almost set him up with Ace. It's almost like him and Ace are going to date after this. Like, it's almost like weird.
And then, I don't mind that.
They bring back Ashad, the Cyberman with the face broken open.
Did we say he cloned him?
Well, I brought him back, and he's not mad at me. But it
was
almost stupid because he didn't do anything.
No,
they brought the actor back.
He was there for brute force. He was there
and they brought back the Cyberlords, which didn't make any sense because they were all dead.
He cloned them too.
But that's a Doctor Who thing, so I'll give him freedom. I mean, they had a Dalek that had broken away from the Doctor Who paradigm or whatever it's called, right? Yeah. And he was a rebel or whatever. No explanation
and they
why.
Kept saying like. That he was like the
traitor,
first Dalek that ever possibly
which
could
is
have
like
been a traitor.
Rusty.
Which we said like 3.
We've had at least.
There's been 2.
Right now, we know Rusty exists.
There's Rusty in
the other one's
Capaldi
Capaldi
era, right? Capaldi is, and then there's
Dalek Khan or whatever his name is.
Tenet era.
The one who had the crazy
time
voice.
vortex and looked at the horrors of the Daleks.
But forget about him because he's dead.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, again, they're all Tommy-Wimey stuff. But Rusty's.
We
saw Rusty like just a couple years ago. Rusty still exists.
No idea what we're talking about. Our fans have no idea what we're
I don't really care. But Rusty exists. So just use Rusty and kill Rusty. I would have been fine with that. Like Rusty, like, oh, you are a good doctor. It's the same guy. It's the same guy doing the voice.
Yeah, it's
like, did you not watch the Capaldi era at all?
Yes, that felt very weird.
Okay. Cameos were cool. Dan just leaves. The doctor's death sucks.
Yeah, her death's
Can
bad.
we like?
She has the worst doctor death.
It's terrible.
It's not
It's
good.
kind of like, oh, by the way, you died. It reminds me of Next Generation when they got rid of Tasha Yar, Denise Crosby, and she died like a pointless
And
death.
again, did she save the day, or like her companions did?
I think her companion. Well,
Later-
she like
Who saved the day
well,
more?
they
Like-
rip off the Tenet area where everybody gets into the TARDIS and
Yeah,
everybody
they stole
flies
that
the
too.
ship. They stole that shit. Like F you.
But here's the thing: with Tenet, at least it was
They
like
were all
7
friends.
guys
They were all
that
friends.
were all
Yeah.
actually Tenet's companions that he actually had personal relationships with. This one was the only 3 people that were there that
Right.
were like actual companions. Were like what was like no, there were 2. There was just Yaz.
Whatever.
There was Yaz, who like literally they never gave anything to do the entirety of the show. She
Right.
was just there being dragged along
Right.
for literally like 3 seasons.
Yeah,
Like,
they rose her up a little bit in this episode.
yeah, she actually gets something to do finally.
She gets
in
to
the
actually
last
interact with
episode
the
of the
thing
series.
and, yeah.
Like,
Yeah. No, she was good in this
and
episode.
then Graham, but
And Graham, they only brought Graham back because I
but,
think
like,
they
literally
felt
all
like
the other characters, 2 of which are former Doctor companions from like
Right.
literally years ago. The other one is literally like a side character. Like I like Ledford Stewart, like Kate Ledford Stewart, but she's literally was in like 2 episodes this era. She was in 2 episodes, and she's like around. Like, look,
Well,
my
here's-
friends.
here's-
It's like she was in there.
here's
like,
the thing
twice.
here's the thing I'll say about Kate. They got Kate right finally.
She's good in this, yeah.
And what the only thing that pissed me off is when the master says your dad was an idiot and she didn't respond.
Yeah.
Even if she would said "fuck you, master," like my father was Lethbridge Stewart, so fuck off. Like and he's here's the funny thing.
That was my
here's,
favorite line
Here's
is-
the funny
yeah.
thing about that. He wasn't wrong. Like everybody loves Lethbridge Stewart,
an idiot,
but he
yeah.
is kind of a dork. He's kind of like Jimmy or Jimmy
Yeah,
Woo or whatever
yeah,
his name
yeah,
is.
yeah.
He's kind of like the guy. He's always like he has great. There's some great memes about him. He's like, how could just once I leak an alien that dies when you shoot it with a gun?
I do
Because
like
every
the-
episode they would try to shoot it with a
I
gun.
do like when they
know.
capture the master and he basically does a Loki where he's like, I am exactly where I want to be, like in Avengers. Like that basically that's
that's pretty much
But
it
then
is.
he interacts with like the old.
I mean, right.
I like that they have 2 older
Companions?
Is that the first time we've seen like older companions interact with an or
Okay,
people? Is that the first
let me
time
answer
we've
the
seen,
question. I have the answer to your question.
Exactly,
so
yeah.
the
You know where I'm
Ace
going.
and what's the other ones? I can't think of the other character's name.
I forget, but you know
Those
yeah.
2 actors came back that were from 2 different eras. They weren't those
weren't the
2
same era,
actors.
no.
One was Peter
was 40 years ago,
Davidson's.
one was 30.
One of them was Peter Davidson's companion, and then the other one was Sylvester McCoy's companion. We didn't, and those 2 very well-known actresses. We have not really seen. They've done other things, but we've not seen them in anything in Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And here's again. It was nice having these companions back, but it's not nearly as good as when David Tennant saw Sarah Jane.
No, not at all.
That episode with Sarah Jane is by far one of the best Doctor Who episodes of all time.
And there's never a good moment between the Doctor and those 2 characters.
There's a lot of anger
There's
and
moments
frustration.
between the hologram and those 2 characters.
Yes.
But there's not a moment between like the current actual Doctor and like those 2 characters.
Yeah,
There's
the
not any moment like
the
that.
relationships that get fixed are with the Holodoctor,
She has
not
a
with
good-
the
she has a
actual
good- she has-
Doctor.
They both have good interactions with the Master.
Sylvester
They
McCoy
have
was
really
great,
They actually
though.
have really
Like-
good interactions with the Master
Yeah.
when they're yelling down at him from the stairs.
Yeah.
And he's like, last time I saw you, you were a cat. And then,
He's
and then the
like, "I
Master's
like to
like,
experiment."
he's silent for a couple minutes like, a man's allowed to experiment. And
Yeah.
it's like, that's a
And-
great reaction to like a really obscure,
and the,
like
and the
throwaway,
master,
really dumb moment
the
from
master.
like, the originals. But
I
now they
think
made it
if I
funny.
remember, the other companion that was there, and I feel like an idiot because I can't remember her
Yeah,
name.
I'm blanking on
But
it. Too.
I think the companion that was with her, I think the master killed him, or he ended up being turned into a Cyberman.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember, and because I didn't really. That was kind of I lost track of the
Yeah.
Peter Davidson era a little bit. Just because that's when I went to college and stuff, and it was harder to find the show at that time period. So I don't remember that area too well. But I mean, I meant to Google that character and look it up.
We probably
So
gotta go to the end.
so yeah, and then when it comes down to it, though, they get to the Doctor's End was kind of pointless. It was just like, oh, you got to die now because the show's over.
Yeah, you're
and
done.
now
We
we
have
got to
no
go to
Doctor
regeneration. I will say this: her last scene where they go for ice cream is cute.
very good, yeah.
It's a nice goodbye.
Her last words are really good.
And then she does get a little speech there, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then she says, I got to do this last bit alone. it's funny. She drops her off at a place where Graham has organized a group for former Doctor companions to get together and
this is
talk.
good.
And the best part of that one is obviously
And I think this is
there's
foreshadowing
two.
maybe to like some future ideas
Yes.
that they have.
Well, because
for the
Kate's
next
there.
era too.
Kate's there, and she says, "I might call upon
Yeah, there's
some
a
of
couple
you for some
things in
more."
this episode that
But
I
here's
think
two
are
things that were
breadcrumbs.
done incredibly well. There's an empty chair.
Yeah.
I think the empty chair is to acknowledge many of the companions that have passed away. Probably Sarah is the main one because she died of breast cancer, the actress, who was, I mean, she was the main
Lived to breathe
character
Doctor Who, yeah.
in the Doctor Who era that held her own
Against
in the old days before we got to the modern era, where the companions are stronger. The companions were always kind of a side thing, but the other character there was Ian Chesterton, who is 97 years old.
Yeah, and he was the first.
And
Doctor's
he was the
companion,
first companion. He's the only guy
First Doctor's
left.
First companion. He was
He's-
like 17.
He's one of the high school teachers that like
He plays a high school. He wasn't actually 17, I don't think, but he was.
I think he's one of the original companions.
Yeah.
And I mean to acknowledge
Even
that
him saying, "Look, did you say her?" It's
to
very-
acknowledge
that's good.
that
I like that.
to
and,
acknowledge that I thought it was Bob Barker at first, but to acknowledge that again,
Bob Barker.
I'm going to throw out support for Shimbo to ending it the way he should have started it.
yeah.
If he would have done this in the first episode, we'd be like, man, this is going to be good.
More of this, buddy.
So then finally she gets there and she says to the TARDIS, take care of whoever comes next. She goes outside because outside's always a better place to not fuck up the TARDIS.
Yeah, I think it's the first time that for a while.
Well, not a
somebody
lot of
hasn't
times.
fucked up
In the
TARDIS,
old days,
so-
they didn't really fuck anything up. They just transformed.
But I mean, like Smith and Tennant both destroy their TARDIS. When
Tennant does
during
a
their
pretty.
regens,
I mean,
so.
Capaldi does a pretty good error to thing. He puts it
Capaldi
up
too,
pretty
as
good.
well.
So she goes outside and says, "Tag, you're it," which is one of the
That
better
sounds good. That's
last
more-
lines.
She's a play. Like, if you can describe like one thing about this is that she's like energetic.
Yes.
And that she's playful. Like, that's kind of like the only two, like, there's not a lot to describe this Doctor in my mind.
Right.
Like, in terms of, like defining characteristics, but those two are kind of, like, the ones that, like, are the most clear. And those lines embody that pretty well. So, I
Yeah,
think
she's
that's a decent
childlike in
last
that respect,
line.
yeah.
But now we can get to the part where we have the best part.
So I don't know if it was the best part, but it's a good part. It's
well,
one
to
top
me.
3. So she regenerates back into David Tennant.
Yep, which we talked about.
And he's
Actually
already
happening.
in. There's the internet's all agog about this. Why did the regeneration include clothes? Because it's never involved clothes
Well,
before.
apparently, I watched a video, randomly mentioned this. Apparently, the first Doctor
Changed clothes.
when it was 1 to 2, they changed
They
clothes.
did.
That's the only other time.
I would agree with that. That's true. That's a
what
good
I've-
point.
That's what someone said that pointed out that I saw.
I think it's and he turns into Tennant. It's a slightly different suit, obviously.
Yeah.
And immediately he's David Tennant.
And
He's the 10th.
immediately the 10th
He's the
Doctor
10th and
again.
11th
Although
Doctor.
this is the 14th
He's the 10th and
Doctor.
11th, or
Although
10th
they've
and
made
10 and 10B.
Although they've made it clear,
He
this
is the
he's not
14th
just the 10th
Doctor.
Doctor again. Like, he hasn't fallen back into it.
Right.
Because he's also, which is funny now, because now Tennant is 3 of the Doctor's iterations.
Okay, all right, hold on.
He's 3.
There's a lot of debates about this.
No, he's
and,
3.
And I know officially, canon-wise, he is officially 3.
Yeah, because when when Smith was supposedly out of regenerations
Right.
at the end of his run,
There's
they
lots of-
counted the
yeah.
time when Smith regenerated into himself because of the weird hand thing.
within the era,
Smith
within
can make no
the
sense to
era,
people who don't know
it's
what
very
we're talking
confusing.
about.
It's definitely very confusing because they talk about Grandpa Grumpy
Yeah.
and then but they always refer to Smith as the 11th.
Yeah.
In the universe,
Yes.
he is the 11th. Outside the universe, he's also the 11th.
Yeah.
So most of these are asterisks. It's
yeah,
kind of
that's
like
what
he
you
did it
mean,
with he did it with steroids or something like the asterisks, like in sports records. But it's definitely very cool because he immediately does the thing. He's like,
I know these
He's
two.
like, I know these teeth. He looks at his hands, does his face, which remember he did
Then
a
he does
lot
the
with his
what.
face.
He does the
and he's
what.
like the what? So he
He
did
does
the
it
what,
twice,
what.
yeah.
This is
He
the
does-
and then we go and then
the old
the friggin' Murray, what's his face music is
Yeah,
like
the old
the
school-
cold
not- yeah,
opening
cold
before they
opening
went
music,
to the thing. And so that does that.
the old score. if we
There
wanna
is
call
a
it.
trailer, a very brief trailer where we see
15 seconds.
what's his face from How I Met Your Mother, who's the
Neil
bad
Patrick
guy.
Harris, yeah.
He's the toy
You see
maker.
Donna,
he's
from Tennant's era, you see the new doctor, the new doctor.
Yes.
Not Smith. but
Who's
there's-
wearing a shirt, and his shirt's kind of open and the tie's undone. So I think that somehow
Yeah.
this Toy Master guy is going to be the plot point. That for the 60th, that I can't think of the actor's name.
Apparently,
That somehow he has something to do with the regeneration, like he's affecting it somehow, and that's why we get Tennant back. And then obviously Dr. Donner is going to do something, and they're very clear. They're very, very, very clear about this, that the new Doctor, the 15th Doctor, is going to have something to do with Donna. This is official from Davies.
Interesting.
That
Yeah.
the reason that he's going to be a Black Doctor, I think they're going to do something. I think they're going to tie it into to Donna's child somehow, the new Rose. It's a different Rose. She's named Rose after the other Rose.
Because Donna gets married at the last time we see her
Yes.
to like
African-American,
not
African actor.
Not African, just a black guy. I guess.
Black.
Black UK guy.
Yeah.
British guy. So I guess
African
that would make
descent.
sense. Yeah. So
Yes.
the new Rose. So
And the new Rose is going to be, that's been pretty
is
much
that a
confirmed.
companion?
I think she's going to be a companion too.
Okay, I like that. I actually like that.
I think that may not happen till the end of the episode. That's my personal opinion.
I always have disliked the lack of connectivity between different doctors when it comes to like their surrounding. Because even like Earth will feel like a different Earth sometimes when you move from like for the biggest one is from Tennant to Smith. The world around the two doctors on Earth when they're on Earth feel very different. Like you have like units and like all sorts of like government-y type stuff a lot of the time when you're dealing with like Smith and with Tennant, and Smith doesn't have any of that for the most part. Like when he's
they bring to the end
50th,
to the
then you get
50th
Unit
when they
again,
brought back
but there's no unit or
Lethbridge
anything like that.
Stewart, yeah,
Whereas like
daughter.
unit is so important
Yeah.
to like Tennant's era.
Right.
Like it's basically like he interacted with unit basically every season.
Right.
Like
Well, that they did that a lot. Like they didn't always have unit. Like
Yeah.
they overplayed unit too much during the
A
old
little
era.
bit, yeah. Mhm.
You know,
I like
because
Unit,
remember
though.
the third Doctor was trapped on Earth. The TARDIS couldn't move.
that's true. Yeah.
So he would just go in, and then once Tom Baker came, then he
I
could
did
leave.
see a
the-
thing about
the
Tom
thing.
Baker. You just reminded me of something that potentially this is like based on like an old scrapped like movie concept for a Tom Baker movie.
Yes,
Like so.
and we
like,
won't
which
get
must be
Tom.
be cool for you, kind of.
Oh well, I mean anything. I mean
anything slightly related to Tom Baker to you.
anything. I get emotional.
I
about,
like Tom Baker a
I
lot.
get emotional about Tom Baker because Tom Baker, as good as the other doctors were before that, Tom Baker turned Doctor Who into even bigger phenomenon than it was under the first Doctor.
Yeah.
Because the first Doctor was pretty much a UK thing.
Yeah.
Once Tom Baker came in and his longevity and his comedicness and, you know, Jelly Babies and everything that he did, the big scarf, it became iconic.
Yeah.
And his comedic timing and just, you know, like, you know, just the way he was just so good.
Yeah.
And in terms of actors go, there's some Doctor Who storylines with the Tom Baker era that are hugely important.
Yeah.
Because destroying of the Daleks, he had an opportunity to destroy the Daleks, and he really questions the moral question of if I kill them and I kill them all and I commit genocide, what am I? Am I still the Doctor? And that's pretty sophisticated for 1976.
I will say, real quick question about because he's your favorite Doctor. Would you want? It doesn't look like the 60th is gonna be like the 50th in the sense of like having all the doctors or like
No.
having a bunch of doctors in it as much. But say like, I imagine we'll get like maybe one or two. in,
I
like,
don't
some
even. I'm not
capacity.
even convinced we're going to get any.
Okay, but either way, would you want? Do you think like because obviously the last time we see an older?
I don't want to see Tom Baker.
You don't want to
again.
see. You think the ending of Tom Baker in the 50th is that thing is the perfect send off?
I literally when
As
he's
is
the
the fourth
great
Doctor or whatever.
when he's the great curator.
Yeah,
and
that's perfect.
I think you might, and he walks away with the cane,
yeah.
and it sets up the next stage for
I
the
do
Doctor.
love that they had the patience as well to wait 10 years.
Maybe when you and then just
I
the
love
nose.
that they waited 10 years, and also it's great that
I
they set
literally-
it up in the 50th, and they're literally gonna.
Do you remember
put it to
watching the
fruition in
50th with me
60th.
when
Yeah.
I heard the voice? What I did?
You like fucking
I didn't
freaked
even
out.
see him.
You like
I was
freaked
like,
out.
"Holy fuck! It's Tom
Yeah.
Baker!" Like I knew.
Yeah,
I
right,
think
right.
you might. It was just he was back,
Yeah.
and I mean he's done a lot of like audio
yeah,
novels and
exactly.
stuff over the years, but I don't. That was the perfect ending for me for Tom Baker. I'm glad he was unavailable for this one.
Yeah.
Because it would have. I've seen him. I was glad everybody else got the screen time, because the other 5 haven't gotten any love. Especially those
Yeah, we got a
actors:
couple of these
McGowan,
guys got-
Davidson, McCoy, and
I watched
Baker.
a few reactions, and some people were excited to see McGowan. People were excited to see what's the one kind of like short looking, kind of like
That's Sylvester McCoy,
yeah, like people like Tim.
who's in The Hobbit and stuff too. I mean, like he's still around. Like Sylvester McCoy.
Like people
like,
freaked out for like
from
from
your
the past. Like
past.
people
Like,
like that line
yeah.
a lot. I saw.
Baker was a lot of fun. Colin Baker was a lot of fun. Peter Davidson was a
What's his
lot
name
of
was
fun
wearing the
too.
suit instead
Peter
of the robe,
Davidson.
too, which is funny.
I think if you don't have Peter Davidson, you don't get Smith and Tennant, the character, the way we got him. Like, because Tennant's a Davidson fan. Like, so
Oh, that's true, yeah.
he totally and obviously married his daughter.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
They asked Davidson, like, in the interviews, like, what's the best present you ever got from, one of your fans? And he says a granddaughter. That's the that's the joke. That is a great code line. But I mean, I'm super excited. Obviously they said I think we're only getting one. I don't think it's a 3-episode arc. I think we're getting a 60th special, and he turns into the new Doctor at the end.
Okay.
I think it's a one-off.
Well, like,
I think it's a one-off, and it's fine.
I think his line is like, because he seemed confused. Because
Like,
we do
why am I back?
We get one. No, not that. In
What the hell's
trailer,
going on?
In the
Yeah.
trailer, we get the new Doctor,
Yeah.
like the actual new, not Tennant, like the
Right.
the guy that's taking over, the guy from Sex Education, whatever it's
Right.
called. I gotta remember his name.
Yeah.
I gotta like burn it into my
Yeah, I
brain.
know. I say it 50 times.
It's,
He says,
but
what's
he seems
going on?
confused, and it almost seems like it's a part of the plot. It doesn't feel like it's an end.
I feel like he's...
I don't think they would have showed it if it
No,
was at
no,
the
no,
end.
no. I think if they're tying in the 60th
Yeah.
into the episode we just saw,
Maybe into like the season.
if they're just the 60th episode, anniversary episode.
Mm-hmm.
If that's tying into this last episode, and there's some theories that Davies went to them and said, "I need you to have kind of the holding area where the Doctor goes during regeneration before they leave."
Okay.
It would make sense to me because he's in kind of like an empty space. Like if the new Doctor 15 is supposed to be the one that's regenerating into the body, but for some odd reason Tennant regenerates, the 10th, 11th regenerates into himself, modernized obviously for practical purposes, that the other one's kind of waiting to take over the role. And there could be some interaction between the 14th and the 15th. Like, why are you in my body? It's my turn. Get out of the way. I think we may see kind of an internal struggle. That might be
Like in that weird thing they set up at the
I
end.
think
like
th-
in the
in-
in the in like the where the desert,
my personal
like with the
theory
weird-
is that Doctor's
where-
going to be
where,
in
like,
there.
where she was talking to like the morphing doctor.
Yes.
That you think that's gonna return again?
Some version of that.
I think
where
that
the-
could be a cool reoccurring
where
place to bring
he's
in.
getting ready to become the Doctor. He's in this holding area and he can't because Tennant's in the way. And it's going to be like this
That would
weird
be a
plot
really
device
thing if they
where
had
they're
that.
battling, where they're having interactions. Where he's like, and Tennant's like, I just need to take care of
That
this
could be
this
a bit
mission.
more of like the concept
Because
of,
the
like,
Toy Master, back to the Toy Master from his generation, when the character, what's his face is what's the guy, 3-name guy, he who's playing the bad guy. First time we've really got an American bad guy, by the way, except for the movie. He has a lot of abilities to screw with the Doctor's stuff.
Okay.
He can mess with the Time Lords because he's got like magical abilities. He's kind of like a Doctor Strange kind of abilities.
Okay, so let me get this. So you think like the ancestral Doctor plane area
Yes.
that like she was in? You think that's going to be a returning concept? Is that what you're saying?
I think it could make sense.
Think there could be like an evolution of the Doctor's character where maybe the Doctor actually interacts with like maybe their former selves more?
No, I think just for the 60th.
Okay.
I think that this is something new in canon that we've created so that we can have
The
this
Doctor has the ability to potentially, when he needs to, or like if
Neil
for the
Patrick
60th
Harris.
Neil
Jesus
Patrick Harris,
Christ,
yeah.
old man.
But so like have the idea where it is possible now that the Doctor can't go to that plane and maybe
No, I think he
interact?
only can go to that plane when he's regenerating.
Oh, okay, interesting.
For that short period of time, it's kind of like purgatory
I mean, like
or
Avatar. I mean, like the Avatar. I'm thinking like an Avatar. Like the whole
they
idea is that
pat.
like
It kind of reminds me of Quantum Leap, where when Sam Beckett would take over a person's like identity, that they would see each other in this kind of holding chamber, and I feel like there's this like conceptual area, and I like the canon of it. I think like it makes cool canon that there is this place that you kind of go to before your character kind of dissolves away. They did it even on Deep Space Nine with like Dax and her previous hosts, which is very Doctor-like anyway.
What it reminded me of now is like in like the Last Airbender, like Avatar, like that whole universe. Like the Avatar, obviously, like when they die, it just moves over to like the next tribe or whatever.
Right.
But but it's a reincarnation of the same into a different body or
Right.
whatever.
Yep.
But one of the Avatar's abilities is like in particular instances they can talk to
Right.
like the former Avatar.
Right.
So like kind of in like a weird like spiritual sense until like one character actually loses it.
I think this would only be.
You think
I
it'd just
think
be a
within
one-off
canon.
type thing, though,
I
like
think in
only during
canon there'll
regeneration?
only be this allowed for interaction while the regeneration.
I wouldn't hate that.
So here's the thing.
I would think that would work.
I feel like that if the regeneration is only for one episode, just like in the last episode, that the regeneration doesn't take hold.
Yeah.
And if the generation doesn't take hold, then Tennant doesn't have to die again and say, I don't want to go again.
Yeah.
Like, it could be like he gives up the regeneration quicker.
But they have called him the 14th.
Well,
And I think your
they can't-
idea, but I think that idea, and I think calling him the 14th basically gets rid of the idea that that's a weird temporary thing. I think that means like
I have no basis for any of this. This is my own theory.
I know that's what I'm saying. I'm poking holes in it actively.
Poke
I don't
hole
know.
in your face. I'll
My fist.
took you into this world and I'll take you out.
How far are we into this
It's
episode?
way too far.
I'm about to say we can't do House of the Dragon.
We were supposed to do House of the Dragon again. And yeah, we're already in an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah, we can't do that. Yeah,
So-
we're done.
Well, we're kind of going to wrap this up. So,
We'll do House of the Dragon Friday as well.
we'll do House of Dragon, and because we said we're going to do a quick
We
thing
may have
on
to do a
Black
couple quick
Adam and a
shows
couple
on
of things
Friday,
anyway.
yeah.
So we're gonna have to do an extra episode very
You
quickly.
get some extra episodes this
You've
week.
got nothing to do.
Yeah, it's Friday. Yeah,
What are you
got
doing?
nothing.
So
We'll be all right.
and we'll go see Black Adam in the morning, and
Yeah,
then
and
we'll
we
come right back here.
so probably later this week you'll have a House of the Dragon for a bit, Black Adam, and some probably I heard Andor this week might be filler. But Tales of the Jedi we will have to talk about though. So
Okay.
is out.
So I brought back up on the screen our Emerge Media
Yeah.
website. If you could help us out, buy a shirt, buy a coffee mug.
Buy a mug. Buy a
For
sticker.
when you're sitting up in the morning and drinking your coffee or tea, that brown water that sucks, as Zach would say from Ted Lasso, that you sit there and you'll think about us. But seriously, the Emerge, that's going to help us reinvest. We're in the process of building some more podcast studios over here. Things are going quite well, but every penny that we're getting from this is going to, actually most of the money I'm making is going right back into the building. At some point I should start making some money over here. But right now I'm really I really want to build something special here. So if you're interested in podcasting, we're definitely looking for more podcasters. We're looking for hockey and wrestling and car racing and whatever. Maybe you have something. We don't really have a gaming one here on. We have a lot of sports ones and some fandom ones, but we're really looking for some more podcasters to be part of our culture here. And what's really cool is we all kind of help each other out. Like tonight, we're taping Big Yak, and Zach Squared's going to be the guests on Big Yak, and last week Big Yak were the guests on Zach Squared. So it'd be interesting. Zach will be talking sports tonight, football, and he doesn't really know a lot about football.
Who sees
Your brother. Your brother doesn't know a lot about football, but he has to talk football tonight, which is even funnier. His team is in the lead in the Emerge football league.
Zach's pretty decent.
He doesn't know it like some people
Zach's
do.
good at just picking it up, if that makes sense. Like
Oh,
Zach,
for sure.
Zach has what I do with like shit that's uninteresting to everyone else. But he does it with sports. So
Zach knows a lot about.
Helpful.
Zach knows a lot about sports. He's a
Zach-
sports
Zach
management
catches-
major.
yeah,
He graduated from undergrad. He's obviously very proud of my son.
He picks up quick.
He
so,
knows
with
sports.
related
He
stuff.
doesn't know like the names of all the players
No,
in
he
the
doesn't know
NFL.
that
Like
as
he's
much,
not he's not a fantasy dude. He's not
But he's
betting a
more clued,
lot.
and then he gives himself credit.
But he understands the game. He understands sports, like wrestling, not wrestling, boxing, obviously soccer, things like that. So,
All right, wrap it up.
well, we're going to wrap it up. We do really appreciate everybody that's kind of supporting Emerge. Please listen to all the other podcasts coming out of the Emerge building, as well as Matt Johnson's bicbp.radio.com. Thanks for being part of this, and we'll be back quicker than normal with our next episode.